Well, welcome to a brand new episode of Trending Topics with BB. As you can see, I am now in a new studio mode. I'm in my new place that I've made into a studio. And as you can tell, my voice is a little hoarse. For some reason, it's 4 days later, and I am still recovering from the Body Language Festival that happened here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. We're going to talk a little bit about that because OMG was it great. I also want to give updates to all of you out there about BB Media Industries, which is the umbrella media company that houses this podcast, my other podcast, Sports Chat Podcast, the Love of Music Project, which is a blog that has been turned into a Twitch stream. I know I need to get going with that. But before I get into that, as you can see here, if you're watching the podcast, is to head onto the website. You know what to do. The website has all the new episodes. It has the social media links. It has all of the wonderful places where you can check out this podcast. Please just bookmark it. All the updates for this podcast are found at trendingtopicswithbbpodcast.com. And for those that are listening to this podcast, please, if you're on any of the podcasting platforms where you can leave a favorable rating or a comment, feel free to do so. Specifically Spotify, you can leave a rating. It helps the algorithm find the podcast, and it helps me out, considering that this podcast has been going for almost 10 years, and I'm just now fully able to get into a rhythm. It's been awesome. I've learned a lot about podcasting in 10 years. I've had some wonderful guests, as you well have seen or will see as you go through the episodes. But thank you to everybody that is listening to this podcast. As you can see behind me, I have a blank wall and some things. In future episodes, if you're watching this, that will be changing, and perhaps on future streams of Love and Music Project. So stay tuned for that. But welcome to this. So for those that have listened to this podcast over the years, you are well aware that I love electronic dance music. And specifically, I love house, techno, and trance was my first love. Still is. I have a love for all of them. And I've been going to events for many years now, whether it's here locally in the Phoenix area or throughout the country. And, eventually my goal is to get overseas in different countries. Well, technically with the Groove Cruise, I have been to Mexico. But along those lines, we've had wonderful DJs and producers come through the Phoenix area over the years in many ways. Different venues. For those that don't know, fun fact, Marcus Schultz got his start here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. But the point I'm trying to make is we typically don't have big festivals here in Arizona. And if we do, they have tended to avoid majority of well-known house, techno, or trance acts until recently. So the Body Language Festival was announced by the promoter here that pretty much runs most of the venues and the festivals, Relentless Beats. And it had a stacked lineup. I mean, for those that are in the industry or a follower in the scene, you've heard of Carl Cox, you've heard of Boris Brejcha, you've heard of Gene Ferris, you've heard of Ida Ginver, you've heard of many other artists, Adam Bear. The point I'm trying to make is the minute this lineup was announced as the phase 1 lineup of the Body Language Festival, I was sold. I was going. For no other reasons other than the fact that, holy shit, those artists on one lineup here in Arizona, when normally you would have to go to Electric Daisy Carnival EDC or Ultra Music Festival or any other festivals throughout the world, or specifically any great clubs in Europe or pretty much anywhere other than Phoenix. To see these wonderful DJs and producers spin in such a wonderful way. And even though in January I went on the Groove Cruise, shout out to GC Fam, which is now turned into an annual tradition, I knew I had to attend the Body Language Festival. Now, many people are like, oh, big deal, whatever. But again, this is a festival that was not expected with this caliber of a lineup. And leading up to this festival, full disclosure, the venue was changing. So the venue was supposed to be at Rawhide, which is this place way out in like Chandler. Not very, let's just be real. It's not the most liked venue to have because it's dusty, it's far, it's just not convenient. And then mysteriously, it got pulled from that venue, and there was about a month or so where we didn't know where it was going to be. And basically, last minute, it was announced it was going to be in downtown Tempe. Now, Tempe has exploded for those that have not visited recently, but there's so much being built, and Tempe and Mill Avenue next to ASU is just, it is what it is. Always has been, but now they're just building up around it. So it's just a popular area. But the point is, the fact that they pulled this off, I have to give my kudos to Steve Tempe for allowing this. Relentless Beats putting on one hell of a show, a block party. So it was around this venue called Sun Bar, which is basically owned by Relentless Beats. And so that was one of the stages. And then outside on the streets, there was two stages. One was considered the main stage, and the other one was like another stage. But the way they had it set up and the way that it was around the walls of Sun Bar allowed the sound to be not impaired, even though it was literally like a 2-minute walk from each stage. And that was great. And the other thing about it is that I think with the events of the world whether it's the pandemic, whether it's the current state of the war that's going on right now that everybody has on their minds. For us here, I think a lot of us were like, we need to let off some steam. And the best way to do that is to dance. So I went with a lot of good friends, some that I've been on the Groove Cruise with, and we had a blast. I had low expectations, which is great because it turned out to exceed my expectations on every level, from just how the staff and everybody working the event were to the vibes of the attendees being just about the music and the camaraderie and the hanging out and just what going to these events truly means. And then on top of it, everybody's set that I attended. And I will say I missed some sets and some overlapped with others. And some were artists that were on the Groove Cruise that were overlapping with some that I hadn't seen. So I didn't get to see everybody's set. But all of the sets that I was there for, I had a blast. A combination of the music with a combination of the vibes from everybody attending and the people I was hanging out with. That's what it's about. So in conclusion of the Body Language Festival, I gave it 5 stars on my top tier of rating. And I really hope that this continues to be an annual thing. I mean, they could even just repeat the lineup. I know it's going to be hard to do that because it's probably a very expensive lineup for the caliber of DJs that they brought. But I really hope that is a new festival that is going to continue in Phoenix and in Arizona, because it was just evident that the house and techno scene here in Phoenix has exploded, and it's great. So shout out to everybody involved, from the people that put it in to the people that attended. I had a blast, and we'll see when the next one is. Hopefully, not too long from now. All right. So I also mentioned that this episode, I wanted to give up some updates about BB Media Industries. So for those that don't know, I started all these projects that I put under BB Media Industries about 10 years ago, this podcast being one of them. And it started out as a hobby, and I've been learning and growing ever since. And I guess what my point is that I'm not giving up. I really want to see, as a content creator, where I can go with this. So as I mentioned, this podcast is going to never probably stop. And I will be producing more content for Sports Chat TV, or, well, it's not TV anymore, Sports Chat podcast. Just chatting about sports, primarily sports that I'm into, which is tennis and Formula One these days, and soccer/football. But, I do see a few headlines of the professional sports. I also want to really focus on creating content for the Love of Music project. Now I have a supreme love of all kinds of music, not just electronic dance music. Therefore, I want to figure out a way to bridge my love of listening to music, being kind of a music historian, and having a little fun. So one of the brainstorming aspects of the Love of Music project is to use the stream, and we can do kind of like a music trivia, kind of like a name that tune or something like that. I was thinking more music trivia because we could do it with an app called Kahoot. All you have to do is download it, the phone app, or you can log onto the browser. It's just as simple as putting in a code that I give you on the screen that basically gives you access. And then you answer questions, and we have a little fun about music. So those are going to be coming up soon. So for anybody that is aware, hopefully you'll check those streams out. So that's really all the updates I have, but I hope you like the new studio and you can hear this. I know there's a little bit of an echo. Maybe there isn't. I hope not. It's a work in progress, the studio, but hopefully with time, it'll be great for all of the content that I want to produce. So without rambling on any further, and I do want to say that upcoming episodes, I'm going to be getting with people to talk about the TV show Outlander. And probably when the new season and movie of SEAL Team comes out, we'll be revisiting that. So check out that episode, that discussion that I did with lovely fans of that show. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast.